Prabhupada ki, Shri Koditaya Mahaprasad ki, Shri Krishna Bhagavan ki, Krishna Janmashtami Mahotsav ki, Hari Hari Bol. Just before we start class, anybody not done guest puja offering yet? Okay, if you can have it today by noon, that'd be perfect. Come out during breakfast time because you will be having breakfast. Anyone who's not done it. Reading from Sri Prabhupada Lamrita, Volume 5, Let There Be a Temple. As the devotees were making travel arrangements for Delhi and onward, Giriraj arrived in Bombay with upsetting news from Bombay. The municipality of Bombay had denied them permission to begin construction of a temple. According to Giriraj, 2 permissions were required. Permission to build it according to rules and regulations, and a no objection certificate from the police commissioner. In issuing the no objection certificate, the police must consider 2 points: whether the temple would create a traffic problem and whether the presence of a temple would cause community or religious tensions. The municipality had been delaying their permission, saying that first they required the NLC from the police, and have we not read this before? Seems like place mark as one place. Okay. And there's no harm in here again. And the police had been saying that they needed the sanction of the municipality before they would consider giving the NOC. Giriraj had been pursuing this bureaucratic matter, but now a commissioner from the police had written a letter flatly refusing to give an NOC. According to the commissioner, the kirtan in the temple would produce a nuisance. The report from Giriraj deeply disturbed Prabhupada. You should immediately object, he told Giriraj on his walk the next morning, that the government is completely unqualified. The pure devotees that are always engaged in kirtan, and the government calls it a nuisance. He could at least be a gentleman and say that the sound should not be amplified while people are trying to take rest, but instead he has said the kirtan is simply a nuisance. Prabhupada said that there were many learned persons in Bombay and they also would not stand for this judgment. We'll definitely read this. Interesting. The thing which is going to create most peace in society is kirtan. It's a Yuga Dharma. And we've got someone who's apparently a Hindu man claiming that the kirtan would be a nuisance. Of course, that's said that when demons hear the name of the Lord or they hear the pastimes of the Lord, then they become agitated.
What's it a Hindu man?
So,
Did you say the police commissioner was a Hindu man?
yeah.
I'm just saying, it's might be interesting.
You can read it later yourself and find out, okay? So even the guise of a devotee, and sometimes people can cause a disturbance. You have to organize all the Vaishnavas, Prabhupada continued. In the Bhagavad Gita it is said, Satyam Kirtantu Mam, one has to chant Krishna always. Shaitan Mahaprabhu says Kirtaniya Sadhari, and this rascal is saying Bhajana is nuisance. Is it not possible to invoke an agitation against this? What rights you got to say nuisance? You could have spoken in sweet language that the bhajan may be very good for the devotees, but it creates disturbance to the others. Therefore, we cannot allow. Say like that, but they cannot still stop bhajan. But his remark is that the bhajan is nuisance. Chanting Hare Krishna is the culture of India. We must take propaganda and organize kirtan parties and fight this. One of the GBC men proposed that instead of going back to the West, some of the devotees go to Bombay and hold massive protests. At first, Prabhupada approved this spirit, likening it to Lord Chaitanya's protest against the Kazi, who had stopped the Sankar movement in Navadvip. But on reflecting, he decided it would not be wise to fight with the government. The devotees could not hope to win such a fight, nor would the people appreciate it. Prabhupada suggested the devotees hold massive kirtan programs and preach positively to the people of Bombay, convincing them of the value of Krishna consciousness. When the people of Bombay are convinced of the importance of Krishna consciousness, Prabhupada said, they will see that the temple is built. In an urgent mood, Srila Prabhupada left Vrindavan for Bombay. His last instruction to Guru Das and the others in Vrindavan: an ideal Goswami should remain here to challenge any false Goswamis, but if you also become false, then you cannot challenge. Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, chapter 3, entitled Krishna is the source of all incarnations, text 23. Ikona Vimshe, Vimshati me, Ikona Vimshe, Vimshati me, Vrishnishu, Prapya, Janmani, Vrishnishu, Prapya Janmani, Rama, Krishna, Iti, Bhuvo, Rama Krishna, Iti Bhuvo, Bhagavan, Aharat, Param, Bhagavan, Aharat, Param, Ikona Vimshe, Vimshati me, Vrishnishu, Prapya Janmani, Rama Krishna, Iti Bhuvo, Bhagavan Aharat Param, Ikona Vimshe, Vimshati me, Vrishnishu, Prapya Janmani, Rama Krishna, Iti Bhuvo, Bhagavan Aharat Param, Ikona Vimshe, Vimshati me, Vrishnishu, Prapya Janmani, Rama Krishna, Iti Bhuvo, Bhagavan Aharat Param.
Ikona Vimshe Vimshati me, Vrishnishu Prapya Janmani, Rama Krishna Viti Bhuvo, Bhagavan Aharat Param. Ikona Vimshe Vimshati me, Vrishnishu Prapya Janmani, Rama Krishna Viti Bhuvo, Ikona Vimshe Vimshati me, Vrishnishu Prapya Janmani, Rama Krishna Viti Bhuvo, Bhagavan Aharat Param.
Ladies,
Ikona Vimshe Vimshati me, Vrishnishu Prapya Janmani, Rama Krishna Viti Bhuvo, Bhagavan Aharat
Ikona Vimshe, in the 19th, Vimshati me, in the 20th also, Vrishnishu, in the Vrishni dynasty, Prapya, having obtained, Janmani, births, Rama, Balaram, Krishna, Shri Krishna, Iti, thus, Bhuva, of the world, Bhagavan, personality of Godhead, Aharat, removed, Varam, burden, translation. In the 19th and 20th incarnations, the Lord advented himself as Lord Balaram and Lord Krishna in the family of Vrishni, the Yadu dynasty, and by so doing he removed the burden of the world. Let's repeat, in the 19th and 20th incarnations,
In the 19th and 20th incarnations,
the Lord advented himself
The Lord advented himself
as Lord Balaram and Lord Krishna
as Lord Brahma and Lord Krishna,
in the family of Vrishni,
in the family of Krishna,
the Yadu dynasty.
the Yadu dynasty,
And by so doing,
and by so doing,
he removed the burden of the world.
he removed the burden of the world.
The specific mention of the word Bhagavan in this text indicates that Balaram and Krishna are original forms of the Lord. This will be further explained later. Lord Krishna is not an incarnation of Krishna, as we learn from the beginning of this chapter. He is directly the original personality of Godhead, and Balaram is the first plenary manifestation of the Lord. From Baladev, the first phalanx of plenary expansions, Vasudev, Sankarshan, and Narada Jumna expands. Lord Sri Krishna is Vasudeva and Baladev is Sankarshan. Om Gyanatman Dashya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshurmutamena Tasma Shri Gurave Namaha Kam Karoti Vachala Palamagati Gnatki Patamam Vande Shri Gurave Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhupada Jananda Shri Radhar Sri Sadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. In the 19th and 20th incarnations, the Lord advented himself as Lord Balaram and Lord Krishna in the family of Vrishni, the Yadu dynasty, and by so doing, removed the burden of the world. Srila Prabhupada, when he was testing his disciples or prospective disciples to see whether they understood Krishna consciousness. So before they would receive initiation, then he had some questions he would ask. 13 questions. Anybody remember these questions or any of them? And one of them is, who is Krishna? Right? So can anybody tell me who is Krishna? Apart from Janet. Janet knows. Does everybody know? Krishna, what is Krishna, an incarnation of Mahavishnu? Is he just one of the gods amongst the many gods? Is he a manifestation of the Brahman? Anybody? Anybody think any of these answers are correct?
No.
Alright, so what is he then? Or who is he?
It's the original supreme personality of God.
Couldn't I say it better myself? He's the original supreme personality of Godhead. So there are many there are many personalities of Godhead, and Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead. And he's explaining here that this is Krishna and Balaram, the Supreme Lord advented as Krishna and Balaram in the original, not as some manifestation. Sometimes people think that because Brahma goes to Vishnu and then Vishnu comes and incarnates, they're thinking that Krishna comes from Vishnu, but actually that's not the case. Because if we understand, like this picture we have at the back in the temple, we see Mahavishnu, and coming from the pores of his skin, we see the universes coming out of his pores like little bubbles. And this is, when we sweat, it's something quite unpleasant. When the Lord perspires, then he perspires universes. There's a big, big difference. So within each of these universes, it's half filled with water, and Garbhodakashaya Vishnu is lying on top of it. And from Garbhodakashaya Vishnu comes Brahma. From the navel, the lotus flower comes from the navel of Garbhodakashaya Vishnu, and sitting on top of that is Lord Brahma. And Brahma, in his meditation, he understood that he was to perform tapasya. He understood that he was there to create, so he was wondering how he would do that, and he had to serve tapasya. So perform tapasya, and Srila Prabhupada explains that in Lord Brahma's mature realizations, he composed the Brahma Samhita. So he heard Krishna's flute, and when he spoke, that was Brahma Samhita. This was the Vedas. So he was explaining Lord Brahma saying so many verses, Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha Anadi Radha Govinda Sarvakara Karanam. Krishna, who is known as Govinda, is the primeval Lord. He is the cause of all causes, the origin of all, and he has no other origin. And he goes on to recite many other verses. Can anyone recite one verse from Brahma Samhita? There's two we do every day at the deity meeting. Anybody can do one. If you don't volunteer, I'll ask you. Okay, Raghunath.
Did you say already Ishvara Paramakrishna?
Yeah, I did say that one. But we don't recite that in the morning. Okay, any verse from the Brahma Samhita?
Anganiyasya Kalendriya
Primanti,
Manti Pashyanti Kanti
Kalavanti,
Shiram Jaganti.
Ananda Chinmaya Sadhu Jvala Vigrahan Shri Govindamani Purusham Tamam Bhajami. Yeah, so at the end of the verse, like Chintamani, Prakara Sabna Shukampa Vriksha, Lakshabhite Shishura Vipalayantam, Lakshmi Sahasrasa Sambhrama Sevimanam, Govindamani Purusham Tamam Bhajami. It's been described the Lord's abode, Chintamani, Prakara Sabna Shukampa Vriksha. The Lord's abode is not made of some mundane matter. It's actually Chintamani. It's made of touchstones, and it's full of kalpavrikshas, wish-fulfilling trees, and he's always served with great reverence and affection by hundreds of millions of Lakshmis, or goddesses of fortune. Govindam Adi Purusham Dhamham Bhajami. So at the end of each verse, Lord Brahma recites, then it's Govindam Adi Purusham Dhamham Bhajami. He's the original Purusha, the original personality of Godhead. And as Felix was saying, that is the original is the supreme personality of Godhead. So sometimes someone may try to pose some smart questions such as, very good, but who made God? So what's the answer to that? And someone asks you who made God? If God made everybody, if everything came from God, then where did God come from? Felix?
It's unborn and eternal.
Mm-hmm.
Everything created is all.
That's one good answer. And the verse I quoted earlier on, Sarva Karana Karanam, he's the cause of all causes. He has no other cause that is the meaning of God. Otherwise, if he came from someone or somewhere else, then that person is God. So it's got to stop somewhere, and it stops at Krishna. There's nothing beyond Krishna. Srila Prabhupada says that some people misinterpret the Bhagavad Gita, and they say, when we to surrender to Krishna doesn't mean we surrender to the person Krishna, but to the unborn within. Prabhupada said this is utter nonsense. He says Krishna didn't say that. He didn't say surrender to the unborn within. He says surrender unto me. What was that last verse? Not the last verse, but the conclusion of Bhagavad Gita. Dharma prityaja mam ekam sharanam braja tvam sarva papibhyo mokshashi yishami masachaha. So Krishna has given that guarantee. If we surrender to Krishna, then he will protect us. And surrendering to Krishna is not something to be afraid of. The material world is something to be afraid of. Maya is something to be afraid of. Prabhupada says that devotees, their biggest problem is they're not sufficiently afraid of Maya. And he's saying, just take shelter in Krishna, there is no fear. Prabhupada's name is Abhay Charanarvindam, one who's fearless. And he was fearless. So surrendering to Krishna means just taking shelter in Krishna. That's what it means. We're accustomed to taking shelter in something temporary, which is going to let us down. And Krishna said, just take shelter in me, I won't let you down. He is known as Bhaktavatsala, the protector of his devotees. So there's four different types of persons who approach Krishna. Can anyone mention one of them? Inquisitor was one of them, yeah. Good job. Someone else? Felix, you're giving all the answers today, let someone else answer.
Desirous of liberation.
Mm-hmm. Something else?
Distressed.
Stressed. Another one?
Who's have to know everything absolute.
Yeah, so, and one who is looking for relief from material distress. So, generally in Kali Yuga, most people are looking for relief from material distress. So, we shouldn't leave it until we're distressed before we take shelter of Krishna. But even if we do it, it's still a bona fide path. It's still recommended in Bhagavad Gita. It is acknowledged in Bhagavad Gita. And it's recommended that whatever our purpose is, if we approach Krishna, better we approach Krishna than someone else, because Krishna is actually the supreme benefactor anyway. So on a day like today, special blessings are there, and we should take the opportunity to remember Krishna more on today. So typically, traditionally, people would fast and just chant all day. But as we're a preaching movement, then we do other things, such like today we're going to be doing an online festival. There's preparations to be made for that. And if it wasn't for a lockdown, we'd have many guests coming. So some guests will be coming for like a very kind of restricted darshan situation. But we continue with our mood. We are following in the footsteps of Prabhupada. So there's two types of devotees. There's one called the Bhajananandi, who is simply absorbed in bhajan, and they're mainly concerned with their own elevation. And one is called the Goshtyanandi, or one who is propagating the message of Lord Chaitanya, who's carrying out the order of Krishna. Krishna said to Arjuna, "Declare it boldly that my devotee will never perish." And declare it boldly, spread my name every town and village. Lord Chaitanya said that the names of Krishna would be spread everywhere. And this is, by doing this, we get the direct blessings of Lord Chaitanya, who is none other than Krishna. We get the direct blessings of Srila Prabhupada and the whole Guru Parampara. So, the purpose of fasting is that we can perform a little austerity to show some importance and gratitude for the appearance of Krishna, and so that we fix our mind, or so that we can spend more time hearing and chanting. So I'd just like to read a little bit from Srila Prabhupada's Janmashtami lecture in 1968. This was in Montreal, August 1968. Now, bearing in mind the movement was only 2 years at this time. And Prabhupada, he is reciting a good few verses from the Prana Samhita, the prayers of Lord Brahma. So incidentally, if we do get that question asked of us, so where does God come from? We say, well, where does the Big Bang come from? What caused that? So the cause of all causes is a person. It's not just some kind of chemical thing. This is the point that Prabhupada made so many times. So today, the birth, appearance, ceremony of Lord Krishna in Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says, Janmashtami Divyam Yo Janati Tatvataha Chaitvatiyam Punarjana Naitamam Etikontiya. So Prabhupada sometimes he refers to this verse like this, or else he Naitamam Eti So Arjuna. So Kontiya is Arjuna. My dear Arjuna, any person who simply tries to understand about my transcendental birth, appearance and disappearance activities, Janma Karma, the personality of Godhead, is not nishkriya, without activities. So anyone who can understand that what kind of activities the Lord has and what kind of birth he accepts, simply by understanding these two things, one gets wonderful result. What is that? Tatvadeham, by quitting this body. Tatvadeham punajanma. Naiti, he does not take birth again in this material world. Some of us may think that Punar Janma Naiti means he becomes vanquished. No, Punar Naiti Janma, so Punar Janma Naiti, but Mam Eti, he does not come back to this material world, but he comes to meet Mam Eti. Means then abode where we can go. Simply by understanding the nature of his appearance and activities. So today is that auspicious day, Janmashtami, where Lord Krishna appeared 5,000 years ago in India, Mathura. Those who are Indian ladies and gentlemen present, they know very well where is Mathura. It is about 90 miles south of New Delhi. Mathura is still existing and it is eternally existing. Krishna appeared in Mathura in his maternal uncle's house in a very precarious condition. That birthplace, Lord Krishna's birthplace, is now maintained very nicely. One who goes to India, they see. So anyway, Lord Krishna appeared on this planet 5,000 years ago. Now Krishna says, Janma Karma Chame Divyam. Divyam means not ordinary. It should not be understood. Just like we take our birth, Krishna does not take his birth like us. That is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita when Arjuna inquired from Krishna, my dear Krishna, you are speaking that formerly you spoke this yoga system of Bhagavad Gita to the sun god. That means it is millions and trillions of years ago you spoke. How can I believe it? Because Krishna was contemporary to Arjuna, so he was thinking that Krishna is my friend, he is my cousin brother. How is it possible that he spoke this Bhagavad Gita yoga to sun god? So what was the reply? The reply was this, that you also appeared many, many times. I also appeared many, many times. The difference is that I can remember, but you cannot. Does anyone know that verse from Bhagavad Gita? Many, many verses both you and I past. Anyone know the Sanskrit? I'm sure somebody does. So that's the difference between God and ordinary living creature. But we're also taking birth after birth. There are 8,400,000 species of life, and so long we are in this material world, we're cycling around this birth after birth. So Krishna's birth is not like that. Therefore Krishna says, Janma Karma Chame Divyam Yo Janati Tatvataha. Tatvataha means in truth, not superficially. Scientifically, one who knows he can get immediately liberation, and how one can understand the same truth. That is also explained in Bhagavad Gita. Bhaktyamam abhijanati yavanyas chasmi tatvataha. Again, the same thing, tatvataha in truth. If anyone wants to know God or Krishna in truth, not superficially, then he has to undertake the process of devotional service, bhaktya. So what would superficially mean? Anybody?
Pretending?
Pretending could be one thing, yeah, that we pretend we know Krishna. Another way, another description of superficial knowledge of Krishna.
Mindful depth. So we've got a right knowledge, not full depth knowledge of Krishna. Knowledge is imperfect, it's very light.
Sentimental.
Sentimental, yeah. Any other?
Not acting upon the knowledge.
Yeah.
And I know everything, but I do nothing.
I'm knowing everything, but I'm doing nothing. Yeah, so it's not enough to simply know. It's just like, say you have a family and they need to be fed, and you've been working, you've got loads of money in the bank, but you won't go and buy the food. Yes, I know the money is in the bank. That's fine, money's in the bank. But you have to go and get the money, spend it, and then feed the family. So it has to manifest. So we may know something about Krishna, but what we're going to do about it. So sometimes people say, oh, I love Krishna. You have so much love for Krishna. And Prabhupada said love is not a feeling, it's something which must be demonstrated. It's not enough to simply see it. It has to be proven. How do we prove our love? It's by service and by dedication. And of course we have to read about Krishna, we have to hear about Krishna, just so that we can actually know who it is that we're trying to love. Because on the other hand, if we don't hear about Krishna, then how are we going to know who we're trying to love? Like some people sometimes say, love God, and you say, well, can you tell me something about God? And they say, don't need to know anything about it, just love Him. And so that's not so smart proposition. If someone comes up to you and says, well, there's this person loves you and they want you to love them back, and you say, oh, I'm interested, tell me more about them. Don't need to know anything, you just need to know that they love you and you should love them. Well, how can I know how to love them? You know, what do they like to eat? What do they like to wear? Do they like certain places, etc.? Where do they live? So that is all there. That's in Srimad Bhagavatam. Where does Krishna live? His address is Mathura, Vrindavan, Goloka Vrindavan. And who his family is, who his friends are, what he wears, what things please him, what things don't please him. So these things are all there in the scriptures. So therefore this is the instructions. This is saying, okay, you want to be a devotee of Krishna, and these are the things to do to become a devotee of Krishna, and these are the things to avoid. Now in the beginning it's not so easy because we have so much conditioning. Everybody's got conditioning, everyone's got second nature, everyone's got bad habits. That's the nature of the influence of the material world. But we shouldn't try to disqualify ourselves by using these things as some kind of excuse, or not feeling confident that we can give up our conditioning, because Krishna says, Vittaragabhaya Kroda Manmaya Mam Pashudaha Bahavogina Tapasa Putamad Bhavam Agataha. That many have been freed from attachment, fear and anger. Many persons in the past became purified by knowledge of me and thus attained transcendental love for me. So this knowledge of Krishna, as Prabhupada says here, is not superficial knowledge. So it begins as superficial knowledge because we hear about it. Just like you go to college or university or you go to school and you learn how to read and write, or you learn some other skill which is going to help you in your career. So that's all very well, but only when you start to practice it, put it into practice, does it take on some meaning. So Krishna consciousness, even just hearing theory, hearing the past end of Krishna, is purifying. What to speak of, we actually start to engage in devotional service. And when we engage in devotional service, we're aligning ourselves with Krishna's pastimes. We're preparing ourselves to enter into Krishna's eternal abode. If we want to hang on to something in the material world, then we have to remain here, because we can't take it with us. So therefore, what's it that's saying that you travel easier to your destination with the lightness of spirit? So enlightenment means knowledge. Also means we become free from our burden. Our burden of material conditioning is holding us down, holding us back. And as we engage in devotional service, which begins with hearing and chanting, Shravanam Kirtanam, and then there's Vishnu Smaranam, remembering Krishna. So simply by understanding the nature of his appearance and activities, It's not ordinary, so his appearance is not ordinary, his activities are not ordinary. And this verse here, Bhakti-mama Abhijananti Yashasutataha, this is saying that in order to understand Krishna as the absolute truth, philosophically we can understand it because there's no philosophy which can compare with the philosophy of Bhagavatam, and logically, etc. But to actually understand it, then we have to engage in the process of devotional service. And Prabhupada here, he introduces it in a very, very simple, easy way. Simply, Patram Prishpam Palamtoyam Yomi Bhakti Prayachati. Anyone who gives me a little fruit, flower, water with devotion, bhakti, that is the only qualification. Krishna says, Taya Bhaktya Paritam Ashnami. Because he brings it with devotion, faith and love, I eat. Actually, one time I was in the Bhakti program at Stanley College, and Bhakti leader at the time, Rohini Nandan Prabhu, gave me a nice service. He gave me a lecture table, Prabhupada, and said, okay, I want you to transcribe this lecture, and it was on this verse. And Prabhupada says that the Mayavadis say Krishna does not eat while you're offering food, Krishna doesn't eat. But Krishna says, I eat. Ashnami, I accept. So who shall we believe? Some nonsense upstart or Krishna? So this is the strong words of the devotee. He will not have someone try to discredit or discount Krishna as being the personality of Godhead, the Supreme Lord. So therefore, sometimes Prabhupada would speak very strongly against this philosophy which is counter to understanding Krishna as Krishna's too, Bhagavan Swayam, is the Supreme Bhagavan. Okay, so this name Bhagavan, Felix, what does it mean?
It can mean, it can refer to Brahma as well, but in
It means full in how many opulences?
6.
Yeah, 6 opulences.
Yeah.
So what is one of them?
Strength.
Yeah, strength. Anyone else? Another one?
Health, fame,
Fame, wealth, knowledge, renunciation. And so one, Prabhupada explains that one who's full in these, then that is actually the Supreme Personality. Sometimes even devotees is called Bhagavan, like earlier we were reading in the 5th canto that Narad was referred to as Bhagavan, or even Brahma was referred to as Bhagavan. But Krishna is too Bhagavan Swayam, the Supreme Bhagavan, Swayam Bhagavan, the original Bhagavan, and that's Krishna. And he has all opulences eternally, not just for some time, not for he's become the richest man on one tiny little planet, which is about the size of a speck of dust in comparison to the big picture. And so when we compare ourselves to the richest man on the planet, there's not really much difference in the bigger scheme of things. So what we have is a knowledge of Krishna. This wealth is actually far greater than some temporary material wealth. Because with this wealth of knowledge, we can get out of this cycle of birth and death forever. And this is what Prabhupada is saying. Krishna is offering us that just understand my divine nature. It's beyond this material world. I don't appear like an ordinary person. I don't take birth. I'm not forced to take birth. But I choose to do it. And when I take birth, Pritharanaya Sadhunam Vinashaya Shadusmritam, I deliver the devotees and I annihilate the miscreants. And Dharma Samstapanartaya Sambhavam Yige Yige, establish or re-establish the principles of Dharma or religion, millennium after millennium. So this is Krishna's purpose. And also to display his wonderful pastimes to attract the living entities. Just like sometimes we put on some nice festival, and then after the festival, people come to the temple, or they come to some program because they like the prasadam, they like the kirtan, they like the talk, they met some nice devotee. So this is carrying Krishna's message and carrying Krishna in person to the people out there. Because Krishna is all attractive, then any aspect of Krishna is all attractive. Some people are more attracted to the philosophy, some people are attracted to the deity form, some people are attracted to prasadam, or to chanting, kirtan, reading, or serving in so many ways. So everyone has a different way of being attracted to Krishna, and that's also explained here. So Prabhupada says, Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smarnam Padasevanam Archanam Vandanam Dashyam Sakyam Atmanivedam. 9 processes of devotional service, which Shravanam hearing is most important. So without hearing, nobody can understand the science of God. Therefore, the Vedic mantras are called Shruti. Shruti means it is to be heard. It is not to be experimented in the laboratory, it is simply to be heard. Therefore, it is called Shruti. So, and then we want to explain the different ways we can approach the Lord. And a devotee can engage in all of these. Vandanam, praying, that's another one. So, Prabhupada said that simply by studying the Vedas one cannot understand Krishna. Traigunya Vishaya Veda Nishtraigunya Bhavarjana. One has to transcend the position of Vedas also. Then one can understand what is God or what is Krishna. Anybody know any other verses related like that? Vedasya Sarvaya Aham Eva Vedya. By all the Vedas it is I who am to be known. Any other verses like that? You're very humble this morning. So that process is explained in Bhagavad Gita. So this Bhakti devotional service of Krishna is so nice, and under that Bhakti category, this Janmashtami. Of course, this Janmashtami ceremony is observed by all Hindus, irrespective of becoming Vaishnava or not. So not all Hindus are Vaishnavas, but even still, this ceremony is observed in India, every home. Just like in your Western countries, Christmas is observed in every home. Similarly, Janmashtami is observed in every home. Today is a great ceremonial day. So our program is at 12 o'clock night time. The Lord will take birth and we shall receive him. And he goes on to explain about, we'll continue with Kirtan. Kirtan means sometimes chanting with music, sometimes speaking. Both of them are Kirtan. Kirtayati iti Kirtanam. Whenever we glorify the Lord, that is called Kirtan. Srimad Bhagavatam reading is also Kirtan. Abhavad Vyasaki Kirtane. Vyasaki, Sukadeva Goswami, he achieved the highest perfection, liberation, simply by reciting Srimad Bhagavatam. Sri Vishnu Shravane Parikshit. Parikshit Maharaj, he simply heard. There are 9 processes. Chanting, hearing, first hearing, then chanting. Without hearing, nobody can chant. So then Srila Prabhupada goes on to explain that we know Krishna is the ultimate Supreme Person of Godhead. The name Krishna has a meaning. The meaning is the supreme attractive. Whatever there is that holds any attraction, that attraction is given by Krishna. Krishna explains this himself in Bhagavad Gita. So in our life, in this material world, we have so many different attractions which we're pursuing in order to build what we think will be our happiness. All this attraction is the attraction of Krishna's inferior energy. Krishna's Maya holds a great attraction for all the conditioned souls. And by following this attraction of Krishna's Maya, they are continuing the cycle of birth and death. We are born into this world because we desire to enjoy something. So Krishna provides us with a body that is suitable for that enjoyment, and provides us also the objects of the enjoyment that we desire. However, also to remind us of our highest possible potential, that of the spiritual unconditioned existence. We have, along with these material enjoyments, various kinds of suffering. These material enjoyments, although they are temporarily real, come to an end, and then there is feeling of bereavement and regret. So sometimes people say that this world of Maya is unreal, it doesn't exist, it's simply a dream. No, it's not a dream. It can appear like a dream in the sense that it's not our ultimate reality. And when we go back to Godhead, then we won't be going back with so many scars of all the different times that we took birth and died. We won't be experiencing that. But while we experience it, it's a reality. It's a temporary reality. But it's not the highest reality. So now we're enjoying this life of Maya's external potency in our ordinary life. Unless we realize the personality of Krishna himself, we must have personal realization, personal contact with Lord Krishna. So then Srila Prabhupada explains about as long as we're thinking that these things belong to us, this land, money, family, etc., as long as we do not know to whom these all belong, then we are enjoying it in a state of ignorance. Factually, we are being thieves. We cannot be happy in such a condition. Krishna is very kind. He provides us with all these objects of enjoyment as we like them. So the elsewhere, Srila Prabhupada says that a thief thinks everyone else is a thief. So if you've stolen something, you're immediately thinking, who's going to steal from me? That happens. A thief is always looking over their shoulder to see, when someone comes to steal something from them. And because someone, what does it say, the thief thinks everyone is a thief. This is called Atmanandari Tejagat, that the conditioned soul sees through the tint of their own false ego. However, Krishna is very kind. He provides us with all these objects of enjoyment as we like them. But we can achieve a far happier state, not only for ourselves, but for the whole humankind. If we realize that Krishna, who is the supreme source of all the attractive objects that we are enjoying, is a person who is ready to receive as his loving servants, the moment we want to surrender all our false ideas of ownership and come back to the spiritual platform. So Lord Krishna, for this reason, has appeared. He wants to call the conditioned souls back to Godhead. He wants us to realize that He is the source of the whole universe. He is the owner of the universe. He is the supreme enjoyer, the supreme knower of everything, and that we are always welcome to associate with Him by the grace of His devotees, by the grace of a spiritual master. And so He has appeared, and we are now celebrating the Janmashtami day, the day when Lord Krishna came to this conditioned plane out of His transcendental power, with His full spiritual potency, in order to reveal the supreme nature of Satchit Ananda Vigraha, eternal knowledge, consciousness and bliss to all the conditioned souls, so that they may be attracted to Him, and so that they might come out of the miseries of material existence and of ignorance. So it's a very nice message. Prabhupada is explaining to us that the negative side, which is that we are suffering in this material world, even when we think we're enjoying, then that's only going to be for some time, and then suffering will follow. But we don't have to be obliged in this material world any longer to pay back our karmic debt. Krishna has come to free us from that and just to take us back. This is Lord Brahma also. He's saying that Krishna is ever inviting the fallen conditioned souls to come and associate with him in bliss and full bliss and knowledge. So Krishna is not holding any grudges against us for ignoring him. He's simply saying, just come back, just forget this world and come back to me. And he appears millennium after millennium. Repeatedly, he keeps coming back to remind us to come back to him. And this is Lord Chaitanya's message, Jeev Jaiva Jeev Jaiva Gaura Chandabali Kota Nidram Chamamai Pisachira Koli. Wake up, sleeping souls. You've forgotten Krishna, and you're now sleeping in the lap of a witch called Maya. And it's explained that sometimes, if one is bitten by a snake, if you're fortunate, there may be someone who can remove the poison. And we have some friends who live at Krishna Sarovar at Govardhan, Now, Pitaji, when he was alive, he was bitten by a snake once, twice actually. One time he was bitten by a snake, and he appeared to be like comatose or dead practically. They called, there's a local village of snake charmers, they called someone, and they came, they did some snake charming and some other type of mystic acts, and then poison came out of his body and he regained his consciousness again. He chanted some mantras and the poison came out. So this is explained also, the Aushadi Maya, Nashibara Ulagi, the Aushadi of the medicine, to get that curse or that poison out is simply hearing the mantra of the holy name. And then this poison material existence will leave us, and then we'll regain our full spiritual health again. So Prabhupada is compassionately requesting us to give up the suffering in the material world and come back to Krishna. And Krishna is very kind, he's very soft-hearted, and he wants everyone to come back. And this is the reason why he comes, and this is the reason why his devotees come. Not only does Krishna come, but he sends his beloved devotees. And Srila Prabhupada said that this International Society for Krishna Consciousness movement is meant for spreading the Krishna consciousness to the whole world, so that people might realize their spiritual existence, and so that the whole atmosphere of the world can become spiritualized by chanting the names of Krishna. Anybody ever experienced that? If you go in Harinam and the devotees are there chanting, giving out prasadam, they've got books there, and the people, what's their reactions, right? Many times they're amazed and they just want to be part of it. Sometimes they come and join it. And we can't tell what's going on in their mind. This is also, I can't remember which bhajan it was, one of Bhaktivinoda Thakur's bhajan, we said that many people were chanting and dancing upon seeing Lord Chaitanya, and those who couldn't, in their heart they were dancing. And I remember one time I was in Glasgow before I joined the temple, and a Harinam party went by, and I took my younger brother to see some pop group that he liked, and he was too young to go himself, so I had to accompany him. And the Harinam party went by, and I was thinking, I hope they'll stop. Maybe they'll come over and speak to us, or maybe they'll have some literature or something like that. So you never know people out there what they're thinking, just because they're not running over to join and say, take me to the temple and shave me up, or put a dhoti or a sari on. It's not that because they don't do that they're not interested. They're automatically attracted to Krishna, except for those who find that disturbance, as we were reading earlier on in Prabhupada Lamita, that some people, when they hear the bhajan or the kirtan, they consider it a nuisance. So this is a demonic mentality. But even if they do consider it a nuisance, then we're not going to stop. Lord Chaitanya showed us the example himself. He didn't stop. And Srila Prabhupada also showed that example, regardless of what mundaners were complaining about, we just continue with this mission. So we'll just coming to a close. And the way to realize Krishna is very simple. Simply chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So that's all. If we do that, then all auspiciousness will follow. Because Krishna is Sarvamangalam. Sarvamangala means that he is all auspicious. As soon as we bring Krishna into our life becomes auspicious. And we see that sometimes people, they don't even have such good fortune in their life that they can chant or that they can take a book. But you can give them some prasadam and immediately you're creating auspiciousness in their life. Maybe sometimes people have had that experience. Like I've asked them, okay, we try to sell a book to them, and they say, oh, I'm not interested, you give them some prasadam, as soon as they take it, then they say, oh, how much is the book? Immediately you can see, the devotees can see what's going on. Or you can say, oh, well, okay, well, never mind, just can you say Gauranga, and then they say Gauranga, and then they may take a book then, or they may not, but their auspiciousness has begun. So there's another nice verse here. Ta Shri Krishna Namadi Nabhava Nabhabet Gram Indriyai. Krishna or God is not perceivable by our material senses. It is not possible. Ata, therefore, Shri Krishna Namadi. Namadi means beginning from his name. Because we try to understand Krishna, beginning by chanting his holy name, Hare Krishna, then, after chanting Hare Krishna, when our heart is purified, then we can understand his form, Satchit Ananda Vigraha. So either his name, or his form, or his quality, or his paraphernalia, or his activities, none of these can be understood by our material senses. It is not possible. Seva Mukhi Jiva. Sivan Mukhi Jiva Do Swan Evas Parachada. When we take to the transcendental loving service of the Lord, then the Lord reveals himself. So it's transcendental loving service. It's not just service, it's not just like a job. It's not just a 9-to-5 thing. If we're not experiencing it as a transcendental loving service, then we should understand that we have some work to do. We have to cultivate it to the point where it's actually willing and is loving. It's done lovingly. It's done with devotion. And this is the purpose of sadhana, that we, in the beginning, we're more attracted to material energy. But as we continue to practice serving and chanting, associating, etc., then gradually we'll lose our taste for material service and our taste for devotional service will increase. And it comes automatically, but we have to keep on doing it. And this is the process of Chetodapa and Marjan, keeping the heart clean, cleaning the heart, and then continuing to keep it clean. So when we take to the transcendental loving service of the Lord, then the Lord reveals himself. We cannot understand. He reveals himself. Therefore, the first business of us is to engage the tongue in the service of the Lord. And how do we engage the tongue? By chanting and glorifying his name. This is the business of the tongue. When the tongue is engaged, gradually all the other senses are also engaged in the service of the Lord. So this we also find from the nectar of instruction. If you read the first verse of nectar of instruction, Vachavegam Manasukhodavegam, Yuvegam Vidarapastamegam, by controlling the mind and the senses, and that begins with the control of the tongue. So if we're engaging in fasting, then the way to control the tongue, which is gracious, is more chanting. And then tonight, midnight, will be Sarira Avidyajam. That will be the mantra. So today it's Hare Krishna, and tonight it will be Sarira Avidyajam. So, and then finally, Abhijananti Mam Mutha Manisham Tanam Ashruta. The fools deride me when I descended as a human being. They do not know my superior nature. So this is the message that Srila Prabhupada is giving, is that Krishna's birth and his activities are not material, they're not ordinary. He appears and disappears by his own sweet will. And he's also appeared in Kali Yuga in the form of his name. It's not that Krishna just appeared 5,000 years ago and we missed him and we've got left us a few stories. It's not like that. He's actually here in the form of his holy name, the deities, the service, the prasadam, the devotees. So all those things are there, and in this way, as Sri Prabhupada says, we can transcendentalize the atmosphere. So we do this at the temple for ourselves, and then when we get the opportunity, we take out to others, because that is Krishna's purpose, is to reclaim the fallen souls. And that means beginning with ourselves. Okay, we'll just finish there and not get any questions or comments. or any nectar they'd like to share about Krishna's appearance. Any questions online? Yes.
Yeah, I have a question and I hope it's not too challenging. It's more like
I hope you
a
answer.
child that I ask in the mood of a child. We say life comes from life, and who supplied all these six opulences to Krishna?
Nobody. He has them eternally.
Huh?
He has them eternally.
Yeah.
He has them always. They always exist. Srila Prabhupada explains in the Chaitanya Charitamrita that because we think in material terms of past, present and future, then we lose our sense of eternality and we think everything, so it's like the frog in the well thinks everything beyond my well has to be measured up in comparison to my well. So because we're thinking in terms of past, present and future, that in the material world everything has a beginning and an end, and we're thinking like God must have had a beginning and he must be very, very old. That's why he's depicted as a big long beard, because he's very old. But actually, Prabhupada explains, he was revealed to us Krishna is Navayoganam, eternally youthful. So because we've lost our sense of eternality, then we think in terms of beginning and end. But by devotional service, then Krishna will reveal to himself that he's always been there, he always will be there. And we can't really fathom that out in this conditioned sense, this conditioned state of mind, we can't really fathom that out because we're so conditioned into thinking that something must have a beginning, because that's our experience since time immemorial. So this is called Nityabada. Nityabada means eternally conditioned. And Srila Prabhupada also explains in the same purport that this eternal condition doesn't mean that we've always been conditioned. It means that since time immemorial, we've been in material world so long that it seems like an eternity. It's just like when you're suffering, does it not seem like time goes by very slow? And then when you're enjoying, time goes by very quick. One time, I had toothache on a Friday evening. It was excruciating pain, and the dentist wouldn't be open until Monday morning, and it was the longest weekend of my life. Couldn't get any relief, trying everything, and it was agony, and it was just, so you can understand, the more we suffer, then it seems like so long. So, but actually, Srila Prabhupada says that, and when we become Nitya Siddha, eternally perfect, then we'll realize that we were actually never Nityabada, we were never conditioned, it was only a temporary covering. And although it appeared like an eternity, just like my toothache, it appeared like so long, when Monday came and the pain was gone, I was happy to go and undergo any pain to get rid of that pain. Then I could look back and see that it was only 48 hours. It wasn't any longer than any other weekend. It seemed like a long time. So similarly, when we once again realize who Krishna is, we realize that actually I was never affected by this. Therefore, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that the soul cannot be cut into pieces, cannot be burned by fire, weathered by the wind, moistened by water, unborn, eternal, undying, existent primeval, cannot be slain when the body is slain. So Krishna is explaining so many different ways to help us to try to at least theoretically understanding our eternal nature. But we can only, because of the mind and the intelligence which we try to understand it with, our material mind intelligence, then we can't fully understand it. So therefore the process of bhakti, the process of bhakti is the way where Krishna reveals not only who he is, but who we are in relation to him. So basically what Prabhupada is saying is that we have the theory, which is a superficial knowledge, but for that superficial knowledge to become deep knowledge, realized knowledge, which will motivate us and inspire us eternally, then the process of devotion and service will reveal Krishna through that. Is that okay? And then you will understand. ISKCON Guru Ki, Prabhupada Ki, Srimad Bhagavatam Ki, Prabhupada Mahaprasad Ki, Shri Krishna Balaram Ki, Krishna Janmashtami Mahaprabhu Ki, Gaur Prana Gaur Bhakti Ki.